Dude, this damage, man. Like, what the f— Hey, what's up, guys? Xiao is finally here, and oh my god. So he's been my favorite character, like, forever, but now that he's actually here, not only is he super fun, but he's also very good, and especially in a team comp that can support him, because he is a selfish DPS. And so in this video, I'm not going to waste your guys' time. I'm going to go as in detail as possible without making the video too long on everything you need to know. How to play him, how to build him, party comps, artifacts, weapons, everything. We're also going to have a damage showcase at the end. And the last thing I want you guys to know is that I do stream most nights on Twitch. Link in the description if you want to watch. Without further ado, let's talk about Xiao. Alright, so let's talk about Xiao's talents and how to play them and like some combos and skills and stuff like that. So first of all, we'll talk about his normal attack. So basically, his normal attacks and charge attacks actually do a decent amount of damage, and it's what I do when I don't have my ult. Although usually I can't keep my ult up like basically all the time I want to use them, so I don't have to do this too much. But yeah, the main thing to note is that his plunge damage, and you can see here low plunge versus high plunge, are two different numbers but are also very high, so that's something to know. And also during your ultimate Bane of All Evil, you do more damage from not only your plunge attacks but all your attacks. So we'll actually start by talking about Bane of Evil, your ultimate, your burst. Basically you do lose some HP per second, but it really isn't that much. Like I just run him with Bennett and I don't really notice my HP dropping. So as long as you have a healer with him, now you do need a healer obviously, but as long as you have a healer, it really isn't that significant of life drain since it is your current HP, not your max HP, so you're not losing like a ton. The cooldown on this ability really isn't long. It's 3 seconds from if you keep it on the whole time, right? 18 minus 15, but the energy cost is quite high, and so a lot of people have concerns about Xiao's energy recharge. But basically, your energy shouldn't be the biggest problem as long as you have an optimal team comp, which we're going to be talking about later. But having a good team comp for Xiao is really, really important. I can't stress it enough because in a bad comp, he can seem a lot worse because he is a very selfish DPS and he really wants a character, another character to generate particles for him to be used efficiently, to be able to spam his elemental burst with little downtime or as little downtime as possible. So what his burst does is not only do you gain damage, like that huge damage percent increase, but you also gain like super jump pretty much, where you can jump really high in the air every time you jump. And so basically all your jumps can let you plunge attack after, letting you deal a ton of damage. I do want to talk about some things about Xiao's ult though. First of all, you should know that there are two types of plunges, high plunge and low plunge. With his ult, you almost always high plunge, but you can actually low plunge and do less damage. So you want to make sure you're not doing that. Basically, if you don't go full height on your plunge, let me just get my ult real quick. If you don't jump all the way like this, your plunge will actually deal less damage. So if you do something like that, you see it only did 20k, whereas if I do it all the way, it does 26. So you do want to make sure you are high plunging. Now, it's not too hard to do. You don't have to go all the way up, but yeah, just make sure you do that. Something else to note is that you can auto attack between your plunges. So like you plunge, then you have a small window to where you can, I don't know if you guys can see the auto attacks, but I do an auto attack in between my plunges and it actually doesn't slow you down if you do it frame perfectly. So if you do it fast enough, spamming plunge is usually how you should be playing them in your ult, but you can weave in an auto attack between the plunges for just more damage. Now we're going to talk about his E. It's pretty straightforward. You have 2 charges of it and it's just a dash that does a lot of damage, like a surprising amount of damage. And this is obviously talent level 6. It does go up. So a few things about this ability. First of all, if you jump and then use it, you can actually plunge attack after, letting you deal more damage. Another really important tip regarding his E is I wouldn't really use it during his ult. You can use it before the ult and then Q while the particles are coming to you. Oh, and by the way, it generates 3 particles, which is quite a lot. But if you use it during his ult, you don't actually gain any of the particles, right? So what I recommend doing is letting you build 2 charges during your ult, right? Letting the charges build up while you kill enemies. And then when your ult is over, then you can use your E's and immediately get those particles, right? So you get 3 times 2, and then boom, you already have, you know, a good amount of energy. Now we'll talk about his passive talents. So the first one, basically you just gain more damage when you're in your ult for the longer you're in it. So you shouldn't really be swapping out of it. You should just use it pretty much the whole time unless you need to heal or whatever. And then the next talent also is bonus damage, but it's for your E, your elemental skill. And basically what this talent does is it just empowers your E. As you can see, like when you do use multiple, you get stacks and it just will think, like let's say you use 2 in a row, the second one will deal more damage. So a very important Xiao tip is actually concerning his energy and like energy management. So basically you guys, and sorry for the loud venti moan, but you guys want to be catching your particles, especially the Anemo ones, on Xiao. So what that means is when you press E on venti, you should swap after to Xiao to catch those particles, because yes, the character on the field that catches the particles, as you guys probably know, does get more energy from it. Now we get to talk about Xiao's artifact sets. For most team comps, what you should be running is a 2-piece Viridescent Venerer, which gives you 15% Anemo damage bonus, which again is amazing during your ultimate and with your E. And a 2-piece of another set, and the best 2-piece 5-star for Xiao is Gladiator, so 2-piece Gladiator and 2-piece Viridescent. Now since Gladiator is so hard to farm, right, it only comes from bosses and you're not guaranteed a 5-star till AR 55, you can run another 2-piece, or you can just run 2 Viridescent with like whatever has good substats, because 18% attack isn't that huge, but ideally 2 Viridescent with 2 Glad is what you should be aiming for. Also, I just want to say, in case you're wondering, 4-piece Viridescent Venerer, it just isn't worth it on Xiao as a main DPS, because it increases your swirl damage, but that doesn't do much damage anyway. Swirl itself doesn't do that much. And the second part, decreasing the elemental resistance of the element infused in the swirl, is great for a support character like Sucrose or Venti, but it's not good for a main DPS like Xiao, especially because you can't infuse a swirl with Anemo, so it just doesn't really work with them. Also, it's important to know that 2-piece Noblesse Oblige, the elemental burst damage, does not work with Xiao. And without taking too much time, I just quickly want to say, if your substats are terrible on Glad, since it's hard to farm, something like Thunder Soother in a comp where you can constantly apply Electro, like with Fischl and swirling Electro, with like a Venti or something, you can run Thunder Soother if your substats are better. But because of how much damage your ult gives you, this set is not as good as 2 Viridescent, 2 Glad, which is overall the best set on Xiao for pretty much everyone. Okay, now let's talk about Xiao's artifact stats, and this is something that I get asked a lot. People have a lot of concerns regarding his energy recharge, how much is enough, and honestly that really depends on your team comps, and I will try to go as in detail as I can in one sort of short video. And so what I'm gonna say is you usually want an Anemo character like Battery, like a support for Xiao who's also an Anemo character. That can be Xiao, that can be Venti, that can be Jean, that can be Sucrose, that can be Anemo MC. So pretty much everyone has one available, right? Because your main character can be Anemo. And while some are better than others, like Sucrose and Venti generate much more particles than someone like the main character, even just MC with other batteries can be enough, but we're going to talk about this in the party setup section. That being said, the energy recharge you need varies. Personally, I've noticed that in my comp with Venti, 140% ER was more than enough because of my team comp. So what I was running this flower, and my overall ER was 140, and I was getting my ult pretty much all the time that I needed it, and that was fine. But for some people, you might want more ER substats, once again, depending on your comp. I would say a good range with good batteries in your team is usually around 140, 150, but again, you might need more. But for the substats you want on your artifacts, it's definitely crit, energy recharge, and attack percent. Now in terms of specific pieces, we'll talk about the Sands. Mainly, you just want attack percent on it because of how nice having attack is on Xiao. Now in some comps, if you don't have a good battery, if you're not getting enough particles, you can use energy recharge as a solution. It can be a viable solution to the problem, but for like optimal build, you definitely want attack percent, Sands, and you can look for energy recharge on substats instead of a main stat. For your goblet, Anemo goblet is just the best. Attack percent with like better substats can be fine, but Anemo damage is definitely what you want. For the circlet, definitely crit damage or crit rate, depending on your ratio and stuff. But personally, I run crit damage because not only do I have better substats, but also I have a Jade Spear, which gives me crit rate. I'm 0 Constellation because I lost all my money on GameStop shares. And talents, you guys know, 868. And honestly, I was getting the question a lot while I was streaming. People always thought I was like C6 because of how much damage Xiao was dealing. And Xiao is a character who doesn't really need constellations, and we can go over them very quickly. So very quickly, C6 is really strong. And I'm not going to go too much in detail because, you know, like most people don't have this, but C6 is amazing if you have it. C1 gives you an extra charge, which is nice, more particles. But an extra charge on a DPS character usually isn't that important because when you're in combat, you're basically going to be spamming the ability, so you're not going to have time to get 3 charges, but it is nice for like the start of a combat or saving them for after your burst or whatever, so it can be nice. C2 is kind of whatever. You usually want to catch your particles on Xiao, like you want to swap into him when you use an ability on another character to catch the particles, so it's not that needed. C3 and 5 are just more damage, and C4 is literally a joke, like what the actual... Now let's talk about Xiao's weapons. So we're going to start by talking about like the best like 5 stars, then we'll go to the best 4 stars and free-to-play options, just to make this like a guide for everyone. First of all, the Jade Spear is amazing. It is the best spear overall for him because of the very high base attack of 48, the crit rate substat, which is just great on Xiao. You really like having more crit rate. And on top of that, the effect is very nice, giving you bonus attack and damage dealt, like a damage increase, which are both just very, very good. There are other really good options, like the Vortex Vanquisher does actually seem to be higher DPS when you're shielded. Skyward Spine is also a great 5-star option as well. I see a lot of people asking, will Skyward Spine be good on Xiao? Well, yes, because not only is the passive great, but it does give you a lot of energy recharge, which yes, means you will lose out on DPS. It is less DPS than Jade Spear, but the energy recharge is great because you don't need to build as much, and Xiao does like energy recharge. In terms of 4-star weapons though, spears are kind of weird because they don't really have the best 4-star options. However, there are two really good ones. The first one is the Deathmatch, which comes from the Battle Pass, which is like $10 for me. You can get it if you want. The Deathmatch is very, very strong because of the high crit rate substat. There's also the Blackcliff Pole, which is a great spear as well, and that's in the shop. It rotates every month, it looks like, between Blackcliff and Royal, and while Royal can be better than other options, I just think it's always worse than Blackcliff, so I wouldn't recommend getting the Royal Spear, but the Blackcliff Pole is a great option because of the high crit damage stat that it gives you, and it has slightly higher base attack than Deathmatch, and the effect can be very good in places with a lot of enemies, like certain Abyss floors. So Deathmatch or Pole as the best 4-stars. Now for the free-to-play options, there's 3 of them. Now, I would first of all say that Pike is usually just better than Dragon Spine Spear because of, as you can see, 41 base attack versus 44. But overall, Prototype Star Glitter should be the free-to-play option for Xiao because of the very high energy recharge stat. On top of that, the effect is pretty cool, but mainly the ER makes it better than Pike in my opinion. Although the high base attack can make your DPS higher than Star Glitter, you do lose out on a lot of ER, and you just rather have the ER on the weapon than this like physical damage and the slightly higher base attack. Now we need to talk about party comps, guys, and in my opinion this is the most important part of the video, because if you play Xiao in a suboptimal team comp, he can honestly feel a lot worse than he really is because he's so strong in a good comp. Like honestly guys, I know I love the character regardless, but he's actually so powerful. You guys will see in the showcase. Although he does have a downside of being a selfish DPS, and actually that is why party comps are so important on Xiao, and that's what we're going to be talking about right now, while trying not to take too much time. Not only is he a selfish DPS because he wants to be out on the field for a while, right? His whole alteration, which is 15 seconds, kind of like Razor or like Child in his E. But he also needs a good team comp to be played efficiently because without batteries, which are basically characters that can generate a lot of particles for Xiao, like an Anemo battery especially, another Anemo character who can generate Anemo particles for Xiao, because obviously catching particles of the same element, if you guys don't know, gives you more energy. So without going too in detail, basically you just want another Anemo support to make sure your Xiao has enough energy basically to spam his ultimate. Now a character like Venti or a character like Sucrose, especially with C1, can generate a ton of particles and can be a very efficient battery for Xiao. Jean is also an amazing support for him because she fills the role of healer and battery as a 2-in-1. However, do note that with Jean, with Anemo MC, while they do generate Anemo particles, which is great, they don't generate enough to be sufficient. So you would want to run them with another battery character. So like if you're running Jean or MC, right, one of the two, then you'd want something like Fischl or Albedo to generate particles to have enough on Xiao. Or you could run more energy recharge. Let's create a new team to make this simpler. Basically, let's say you have Xiao, you'd want another Anemo character. For the sake of the example, we're gonna run Sucrose as a sort of Anemo battery to generate particles for Xiao. Now on top of that, you also need a healer. Now there are many good healers. I personally love Bennett. I just think he's insane for the damage boost and the heal he gives. And what you want from this last support is ideally someone who can be efficient while not on the field. Since Xiao wants to be on the field for so long, your last character can be someone like Fischl, someone like Albedo, who can have an ability out even when they're not there. Fischl, as you know, her Oz will stay there and deal a ton of damage. Someone like Shangling with Bennett for the Pyro Resonance and her Pyro NATO can be very good. Someone like Zhongli is insanely powerful because of his, well, I'm going to talk about Zhongli changes in another video, but basically he's just really strong right now. His shield is great and he has good burst. And also someone like Xingqiu can actually be good if you can weave in normal attacks in between your plunges to proc his rain swords, because once again, he's a support who doesn't need to always be on the field to be effective. Sorry if I talked too fast or too much for this part, but I basically want to get a lot of information out without making this video too long, because building Xiao, basically you need to do it right or you lose out on a lot. Now the personal comp I run is this one. So Venti generates the particles and comps enemies, Ben is my healer and damage booster, and Zhongli does the rest. He's just a nice shield, reduces the enemy's resistance, and does good damage. Quick note, a character like Anemo MC or Jean, while they can be good with Xiao, you might need more than just that for for basically to spam your ult, so you might want more energy recharge or another battery character with them. Alright, now we're going to do a damage showcase, which is just me testing them everywhere, no food or anything, and the only Abyss floor we use is 12, which doesn't give you any buffs for Xiao. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy my Xiao, like, destroying everything. Let's go! Omega lol. Okay, what the fuck? This one's all back already. This boy. Like, what the fuck? This Abyss floor doesn't give buffs, by the way. Oh wait, that hit him. Oh, that worked! What? Watch this, chat. Okay, that works. Can we punch here? That kind of works. I'm not doing better though. Oh my god, dude. How are you using support, man? How are you using support when you're who cares if Xiao's selfish when you do more damage? Alright, Xiao time. Yeah, against single targets, he's less than Dilution Q because it's single targets, but his hits are all AoE. So he's a lot like Child, like this side effect. Like, look at that. Well, now I'm on my ult anymore, so never mind. What the fuck, dude? What is this? Oh, it's not dead. I thought it was dead. Sad, that would have been cooler. Dude, this damage, man. Like, what the f— and now this plant is dead. Say goodbye, plant. It was nice knowing you, man. Like, you lived a nice, long, and fruitful life. How fast can we kill him? Place your bets, chat. So yeah, he's pretty crazy and tons of fun. I think Xiao is an insane DPS. He's like pretty broken. I think he's an S tier carry and he's really strong and extremely fun. I knew I was gonna like him, but honestly, I didn't think I'd like him this much. His playstyle is so fun and he just destroys stuff. Now, I hope this video is informative because like that's why I do them. I just want you guys to be able to build the characters you enjoy in the most optimal way possible. Keep in mind, I will update a pinned comment if there's anything that changes, if I missed anything or whatever, but I did try to be as thorough as possible with this video, so I hope you enjoyed it. Also, sorry if my voice sounded different at some times, or if it sounds weird now. I've been streaming for like 7 hours, so I'm kind of out of voice, but yeah, so I'm gonna shamelessly plug that I stream most nights on Twitch, so come say hi because it's tons of fun. That being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe if you want to. If you don't, that's okay too, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. I love him so much, dude.